This is Living the Dream with Tony K. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for another episode of Living the Dream with Tony K. I'm, of course, Tony K, and you are going to get ready to live that dream with me. This week, it's going to be fun. Let's just go ahead and start with the news stories that have caught my attention this week, or in the last 2 weeks, and my one big story I really wanted to dive into a bit. Topic of video game related content for just a moment. I have long argued that the PlayStation 2 is hands down the best system of all time. You could talk about all sorts of different things, but the biggest thing to me is the fact that the game library is super deep. I mean, just get away from the classic, how far some of the sporting games came along. You can talk about just some of the great games, and if you really pay attention to your PlayStation 2 history, Fallout started on PS2, not PS3. Anyways, interesting story came up about the beloved PS2, which, by the way, they kept their online servers on well into the PlayStation 3 life cycle. Into the PlayStation 4 life cycle, if I'm not mistaken, but I'd have to get fact checked. Anyways, so PlayStation 2, now it's known that if you can write your games to a DVD, basically, you can play it on the PlayStation 2 by overriding the DVD player option, and it goes right through just like normal. Guys, I'm telling you, this is literally one of the most important systems of all time. So if you're a video game player, not to mention how many great titles there are, the graphics on the system are so good, and they do hold up. I don't care what people say. There's people who want like these fresh, cutting edge graphics. You know what? The classics are classics for a reason, right? But nonetheless, PS2, even as we're getting ready to go into the next generation of overpriced systems, overpriced games, I saw a story that there's going to be like a possibility of $70 games in the next generation of, for like the new NBA 2Ks and the new Maddens and all that. It's gonna be like $70, $80. We gotta stop that. But that's another day, another story. I just wanted to, give a victory to the greatest system of all time, the PlayStation 2. So while this next story is overseas, it does have a pretty big impact, I think, overall, because I'm selfish like that. Nintendo World in Japan is not opening. They're not on track to open. Guys, I want Nintendo World to come to America so bad. Imagine how great that would be. But you know what, it is, and I don't know, pandemic's going to win this fight one way or the other, or it's going to win some of these fights one way or the other. We're not going to win all of them, so this one will throw out to the pandemic. But man, I was really excited to see that park open. Not that I was going to be first in line over there, but they bring it to the Continental United of America. All of a sudden, we got a different situation. In an interview done earlier this week, Ringo Starr revealed that the Beatles, just a few years after they broke up, actually turned down a $50 million offer to reunite. I want you to understand the reason why, though. The opening act was a shark. That's right, boys and girls. For all you Shark Week fans, understand that your idol of an animal that gets a whole week every year, which I still don't understand. Well, it cost us the Beatles reuniting, and of course, just a few years after this attempt to reunite fell through, John Lennon was murdered, and we've lost George Harrison. So, but Ringo Starr announcing that, giving us that news, that was pretty cool to see. In one of the biggest step forward we've seen ever of how we're going to save the planet, especially when you consider the automotive reliance that we have. The great state of California is there yet again, and this time they're saying that by 2024, a certain class of trucks and moving on up, they need to be electric. And there's a lot of push and forth on this, obviously, but it does seem like not only does the state have a little bit of momentum here with this law passing and with this going into play, but it does seem like between the growth of charging stations, not just in California but across the United States, also manufacturers and car companies are actively trying to get into this game. It feels like we are making some progress. Now you got to remember, there's going to be these people in the oil company, old money if you will, and they're going to do what they can to hold this back. But it does kind of feel like we're making a little bit of progress to maybe a place where, just maybe, in our lifetime, in the next 10 years even, electric cars and the reliance on oils being just diminished, that seems like a real possibility. The planet would love it. I have no complaints there at all, and I'm willing to make whatever changes are needed to help sustain the planet. Moving from current world events on to something that happened millions of years ago and the focus of billions of years ago and yada yada yada, let's talk about dinosaurs, who maybe they are producing some of this oil, some of their sufferings that they went through when that asteroid hit. Who knows, who cares, right? Anywho, Jurassic Park. Great series. Jurassic World, it's hard to beat the original. Now, Jurassic Park had Laura Dern, Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, and they are all returning for Jurassic World 3. Pretty exciting when you think about it, because early reports are it is not just cameo roles. It's really invested in the movie. Time will tell. But this was, I'd have a real hard time ranking my top 3 or top 4 movie franchises without at least considering Jurassic Park in there a bit, because even the new ones aren't terrible. But for fans who love that original cast and the original story, looks like they're trying to bring some of that in, and that's pretty exciting overall, right? We found out that Yeezy, Kanye West, the Pied Piper of a generation, if you will, he is going to try and run for president of the United States of America. And 4 years ago, I would have thought, man, there's no way on God's green earth, that's absurd, and, all this nonsense. I gotta tell you guys, I actually think he has a chance. I'm not using any political insight. I'm merely just basing this on, we elect idiots sometimes. So, what do you do? But that isn't possibly nearly as, I don't want to say stupid because I understand where he's coming from, but I'm going to say stupid because of what he needs to accomplish. Joe Biden is saying he will not hold any sort of rallies to help control the spread of the coronavirus. So, Joe, listen, I'm going to talk to you here for a minute, buddy. Mamba to future president, hopeful future president. You are running in one of the most important elections of all time. Let's just lay the cards on the table, okay? You are not the best candidate. By far, you're not the best candidate. If you guys would lower the age restriction, I could run right now, and I'd probably win because my policies would be so progressively awesome that you guys nobody would be able to oppose me. But Joe, you might have Kanye, and you've got the Donald. You need to figure out how to get as many, even if you are projected to be the winner right now, a lot can happen, and we want to make sure that we get the orange out of the white. You know what I'm saying? Think about that. So, hopefully he can figure something out, because man, that's a if you're going to go to a rally, though, for Joe Biden, please make sure you wear a mask. Speaking of wearing a mask, so we can all agree that Tom Hanks is pretty much the greatest of the greatest, right? I mean, you're not going to get me to downplay the fact that he's been considered America's dad before, and he's considered one of America's most beloved treasures. And remember when he got the corona, when he was out overseas and he and his wife got sick, Like, he was one of the first celebrities that really got impacted by this. So he came out and he basically said, hey, look, wear the damn mask. I mean, and he's come out in other interviews and said, he doesn't respect it, that people don't want to wear it. So, you know what? As a show of support, even though I'm in this room by myself, even though Tom Hanks probably won't see it right on the debut. I understand, Tom, you're a busy guy. I get it. Joe Biden probably won't see us on the debut either. But regardless, Tom, you're absolutely right. So you know what? Hang on just a second, guys. Hang on just a second. Just get this over here. Just get this. You're right. You're right. I don't know if you guys can see what it says. Let me come in real close like. Close like so you can see. Does that say UGSM? That's right, boys and girls, because even custom-made masks are available. There's no reason not to wear them. So, for the one kind of big story that I wanted to cover here in depth, we are on the 10-year anniversary of the decision by LeBron James. And for those of you who don't know, LeBron James, NBA player, was born in Ohio, Akron, Ohio, played high school there, #1 overall pick by, you'd guess it, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who play in absolutely Cleveland, Ohio. He played the first 7-8 years of his career there, and Cleveland's not a free agent destination. Even before LeBron gets there, it's not a very popular place. So LeBron decides to leave, and the infamous clip, he took his talent to South Beach. Most of us have heard of it, or we've seen some of the backlash. Most of us have a pretty good idea of what happened, but just a history there. So at the time I didn't like it, and here today I still don't like it. But it might be different than what most people are going to say. So first is, let's talk about why I don't like it, and then we'll go into kind of why it was right for him to do it. So LeBron James, like I said, born and raised in Ohio, played his first several years in the NBA there. He knew going into that night that he was going to make a tough decision. The decision, no pun intended, but he knew that what he was deciding to do was going to be really tough on the community. There's a lot of fans. Remember, fans is short for fanatic, and that's a real tough thing for some people to kind of separate and draw the line. Remember, there were people burning LeBron's jersey. They were burning jerseys that at the time, I gotta imagine like $70 to $80 for a jersey. You're burning $80 there. I mean, maybe more depending upon where you got it and where you live and things like that, but that's a lot of money. So, the reason that I didn't like this, though, is not because of the power move, not because of the ownership he took, not because of anything other than the spectacle. He knew, and he's come out on the record since saying he knew that this was going to be really tough for the state of Ohio. He knew that he was going to be hurting some people. He knew that this wasn't going to be popular, and yet he still went through and did this televised charade and spectacle that caused people frustration. Now, I don't think there's any way to get around it. He was going to get ripped into no matter what happened, and that's just the world we live in. It doesn't matter what the athlete does. There's not many, if any, athletes that get to leave in their prime without having some sort of backlash. But I think the way he did it on ESPN as a built-up special, I think that is where it just didn't go right for me. He could have easily released a press statement and just said, hey, this is what's going on. Thank you for my time in Cleveland. The reason that I think he's correct in doing this, the reason I think that LeBron was 100% justified in doing this, is because he spent 7 years in Cleveland. They got to one finals. They got swept by the Spurs. They also never got him another true number two, a number two to get him over the hump, a superstar, another key player. when he left and went to Miami, didn't just have one, but he had two of them. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. How do you argue that? How do you argue that if you're LeBron? And the city of Cleveland rebounded. Okay, they did absolutely fine. I do think it's funny that there are so many fans who are just done with the team because LeBron was gone, when in reality they were fair weather fans. And I don't care what you say. Let me tell you some truth. The Chicago Bulls are going through a terrible time right now, just like they did coming out of the Jordan years, and I'm still here watching it. I'm still here loving this team. Unfortunately, the pandemic shut that down just a bit, but you get my point. Through the highs and the lows, if you're going to be a fan, if you are going to be the fan that burns the jersey, you need to be the fan that buys the jersey of the next guy that comes in, which would have been Kyrie Irving the next year's draft, like the following year, something like that. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, LeBron was not in the wrong, and it's funny because we often get these things confused, but this is God's honest truth, guys. You have to remember that there is nothing wrong with athletes wanting to enhance their position in life. Their time to maximize their value in the world is so much shorter. When you talk about that financial aspect, it's so much shorter than what you or I have. And it's so much more competitive. We hear about them making tens of millions of dollars and yada yada, but you talk about taxes, you talk about, it's not, like, I can't imagine that it's that big of a difference in terms of living. Like, you have bills, you have expenses, you have all these things that you have to take care of. There's probably more people that come at you. So there's a lot of things that they do have to deal with in this aspect. No sympathy for them. But just like you would, everyone who's watching this or who listens to this or who has ever paid attention to their own career path has probably taken a different job for more money, better opportunity, relocation. That was kind of all three reasons for LeBron. Now, maybe not the money. I don't know for sure. I actually think he might have taken a little bit of a pay cut. But that's kind of what he did. Now, look, that move to Miami held back my Chicago Bulls from making it to a finals at least that one year. And then I got to imagine that if he's not with the Heat and if the East is a little bit more balanced, the Bulls, they might have a chance down the road. I don't know. Everyone will cite the Derrick Rose injuries and this and that and the other thing, but we don't know how the world would turn because those games during the season would have been different, and maybe they play different in the postseason. And who knows what happens? Oh, God, but to think about it. Anyways, so I don't blame LeBron for leaving. I don't blame LeBron for saying, hey, you know what? You guys just can't get anything. You can't get anything going here, and it's time for me to, to go on to the next step. He did come back, and he did take Cleveland to 4 straight finals. And it's really funny how Dan Gilbert, who his net worth tripled, and he wrote a letter that was very demonstrative and had some of the undertones and overtones and that racial tension that we just don't want to kind of talk about in sports right now, but we should talk about. Yeah, you know what I mean. Go read that letter. That was more than just a man who was angry. I mean, he was ignorantly angry. He was blindly angry. And it happens. I mean, we've all been there, but you can't blame LeBron. You just can't. So we would all do the same thing. So that's just my one big story that I thought that would be kind of fun to dive into a bit and discuss. I didn't like the spectacle. I liked the career move. But my point was, Cleveland welcomed him back. People get caught up in the moment sometimes. People get caught up in their emotions sometimes. And it takes them a while, but they'll always welcome him back, right? Okay, so with all that in mind, we've got a pretty fun show in store today. We've got some meat that we're going to smoke. We're going to do another episode of the Wraith Rights. We're going to do not one, but two booster pack openings. 2! I'm spoiling you guys. And we'll just have some fun today. So sit back, relax. This is Living the Dream. And, yeah. Alright, guys. Let's open a pack of Modern Horizons. I bet you're wondering how I knew about this pack that will make me blue. Alright, so I think it goes from the back. Let's just get rolling here.
And hopefully everyone's having a great day. Looking for something delicious. Let's see what we got. Trying to get through the comments. Let's see what we got. I know that's decent. Sojovian. Not bad, not bad. Okay. So here we go. I like these ninjas that they're throwing in. Watch it for tomorrow. Here we go, coming up. Big time cards. Alright. Nothing to brag about there. Hopefully other packs we open will be better. Thanks, guys.
What's going on, my beautiful scouts? I want to open another pack on the lake. Today we're going Theros. I'm trying to do some of the older sets. I don't really care about the new stuff right away. I like to open some of the older stuff when I can. This isn't a terribly old set, but it's still an older set. Out here on the lake, doing what we normally do, just skipping right to the juice. And our first uncommon will be the Seagull's Revenge. Little Tormented Hero. Flame Speaker Adept. And our rare Underworld Cerebrus. Nothing to write home about. Let's see what the extra cards are. Trash. There you go. Not bad. Put these up. Can't complain. That's always going to be my new motto. Can't complain when you open trash on booster packs. Because it's really like the lottery. So, once again though, fun times. Okay. We are ready to do another good old-fashioned session of meat smoking. Today we got country style ribs. We're going to use very basic seasoning setup: smoked hickory flake salt, salt flakes, and then pork stank. I love this stuff. Ground pepper. I may add a little bit of garlic salt or garlic powder, onion powder. Not 100% sure yet. This is actually pretty good on its own, and then these two really complement it. So I was a little too lazy to edit out the logo of where I got some of this stuff. So they're getting some of my shine. Enjoy the shine. Let's do it and start seasoning some shit up, and let's start smoking. Alright, so I got my wood chips. They've been soaking for about a half hour. I didn't think you guys would care about the setup process there, but we got this. I like to put just a little bit of water in there, keep it in. This bad boy's gotten clean, scrubbed out, things like that. It doesn't look super clean, but man, you know these smokers are a pain. So yeah, we're just gonna throw this in, get this turned on. We're really just get this up and rolling. Wanted to show you guys what it looked like before we got going. Got it on this nice little stand here. And here in a moment I'll throw in the meat, and then we'll just kind of talk a little bit more about the process going through it. I think the seasoning is pretty straightforward at this point. Soaking wood chips isn't too hard. It's really, once we get in here, how do we maintain and how do we keep that from drying out, hitting the perfect temperature, checking on it without losing a lot of that smoke. There's going to be some challenges, and I'm sure that everyone has their own opinion. I am not claiming I'm an expert. I'm claiming I'm one of the common man that just love doing this. I am getting ready to throw these in. So there's a couple things I want to just throw out there I didn't bring up in the last video or in the last episode that I did smoked meats. I like to use this tray right here to put under. Obviously I needed 2 trays for this, but I like this tray right here. It fits right into the smoker. I put it on the bottom rack if I'm not using all of them, so that it catches any of the grease that falls on. Helps keep, I don't like the way that the coils get, and I don't want to get all that grease and everything on the coils if I can just catch it in here. And I've also done like a smoked chicken on this as well. So I'm going to throw this in, throw these 6 bad boys in. They've been seasoned, beaten and seasoned. So let's get them cooking. Remember, you want to get that smoker up to about 400 degrees. A little bit over that. You want to get it really nice and thick and smoky, and we're just about there. So let's get that in, and then we'll take a quick look before I shut it, and we'll come back to it in a bit. Alrighty, so I just got done throwing in the meat. I'm only going to open it for a second. I just want you guys to see what it looks like. You see we got the tray down there, the racks. We're going to shut this, let it get back up to temperature. No matter what, when you check this, you're going to lose a little bit of that smoke, so you want to make sure to only open it minimally. I mean, you can see it already dropped a little bit as I was doing all that. So we will show you what happens as we check it, and we'll just keep moving from there. There's really no way to check on this without, letting some of the steam out. So I have waited until I'm a little bit closer to the end to actually open this up and show you guys the inside this time. So you see what we got going on back there, you know what I'm saying? Let me turn on another light. A little darker here than we'd like. I don't know how. Ooh, that helps a little bit. So you see what we got going on. Just looking delicious. That tray I was talking about, of course. So a few things. First, I did use a thermometer to check on it quite a few times. Not quite a few, I'd say like suck it in, probably checked on it like 2 or 3 times. But also I have over here a little water that we spritz with. So there you go. So I'm gonna get this pulled. It's ready to eat. I'm hungry. Camera's getting a little foggy. Yeah, thanks guys.